This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
All right, so today is Thursday, May 23rd. This is the Easthampton Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership, and it is 6:07 p.m. Are you taking notes?
Sure. Thank you. And we'll make a point to get them done prior to our next meeting.
I need to move the agenda to put public speak first and put April meeting notes. Okay, but April meeting notes are not ready, so they will be tabled till next month. All right, so we have 15 minutes for public speak. I know we're running a little bit behind. We will do 15 full minutes. Is anyone here for public speak? Yes, Jamie.
So I want to just let everyone know, but I submitted my resignation. And my last day will be June 13th.
Oh, that's so sad. We're devastated.
Sarah, totally. Yeah, it's a pleasure working with you, and Housing Partnership is one of my favorite committees. So
We're gonna miss you.
Yeah, you've been such a great support. Thank you. So I appreciate it.
How long have you been our person?
Since Jess left in 2018.
That's a long time.
6 years.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I was here for the 6 years prior, but I didn't come to your meetings.
But you're leaving the meetings, or you're leaving?
No, I'm leaving to study. I am just gonna take some time off, join the ranks of the unemployed, and just do some traveling and adventuring for 6 months or so. And then come back up again.
Yeah.
Looking for work. So.
Well, that's fabulous. I have suggestions as to where you should go.
Do we have who's our person?
We don't have a planning director right now.
Yeah, so like we don't have a planning director and we don't have a Jamie.
Yeah. So no senior planner, no planning director. So you guys might be a little bit listless for a little while.
Yeah.
Oh, Jamie.
But
You can always join us as a guest.
great.
Right.
We welcome your.
Can you come back, Jamie, and answer a few questions as a guest? Okay.
Do my traveling and
Zoom in from across the world.
I'm not an Easthampton resident, so I can't.
Yeah.
I think I have to work or
Well,
live
there's this
in
great
Easthampton.
housing coalition. It's run by Kyan.
You don't have to
Get on
be
the
ready.
mailing list.
So I'll just have to update my
Email signature.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. It's both sad and happy at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sad for us.
Big
happy for you.
things. Congrats on your new chapter.
Thank you. So, but yeah, so I'll be here for another 3 weeks. So
Okay.
if there's things that are needed to help make sure that there's no less loose ends.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll do what I can.
Okay. Thank you. Is anyone else here for public speak? Sure. We're gonna do the 3-minute time frame again.
Kathy Wazinski, Overlook Drive. I am frustrated and astounded at how much we are rushing to urbanize our small city. It is a wonderful rural city that we keep hoping that will be maintained that way. However, it seems like most of the city government is looking to put up 3-story buildings and atrocities like the one on Cottage Street, which is just absolutely ugly, and building on what little remains of our farmland and open space. I would guess if you wanted to live in an urbanized setting, you shouldn't have moved to Easthampton. Maybe stayed in Eastern Mass or other places that are already concrete jungles, and not come here to ruin our city. Easthampton has documented issues with the sewer system that, according to the Ty and Bond report from 2018, cannot handle any additional volume. And we are looking at adding close to 300 units of housing in the next couple of years. We look at potentially a catastrophic failure of our sewer system, causing an environmental disaster because it has not been fixed. And everybody keeps pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing for building without considering that there might be other options and smaller units might be better. Complexes are terrible places to live. I've lived in them. They're stigmatizing. The state has rules about how much space needs to be between people with houses with people with disabilities, but we're warehousing individuals with affordable housing who need affordable housing into 10 acres, 30 units, 90 units and 10 acres. That is segregation at its best. It's just economic segregation, although by your statement, you seem to think that anybody that would be living in these affordable housings would be only people of color, because obviously if I'm opposing this sort of building, I must be wanting to perpetuate whiteness, as you said a few meetings ago, which was really insulting to most of us. Affordable housing doesn't need to be projects. The proposed buildings are ugly. And we would hope that the Affordable Fair Housing would want to build quality housing for people that could grow and develop and have wonderful families with yards and not just 3-story atrocities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else for public speak?
Hi, I want to first speak to Jamie. Just want you to know I really appreciate all the work that you've done for the city. You know, and I'm speaking as a city councilor. You know, it's been a real pleasure working with you and being able to rely on your expertise for guidance and your availability to answer questions and things like that. So you'll be very missed.
Sure.
And also, I want to thank this committee. I think the work that you do is amazing. It certainly isn't easy. And I want to compliment you and acknowledge the bravery in which you approach these conversations, right? We are talking about low-income families that are in need of housing. We live in a community that is has a lot of senior residents, and some of those, the sad reality is that they're not going to be able to keep their homes, right? And instead of shipping them out to some other community, right, the whole goal, and I think, of affordable housing is to be able to help people be able to stay in their community, right? And that just kind of contributes to the longevity of their life, being able to maintain kind of those relationships and be able to stay in a place that's familiar to them and a place that they love. And in many instances, this is a community that they've known their entire life, right? And so I want you to commend that. And also I want to acknowledge that you know, housing is a complicated conversation, right? And I think that you approach this with a lot of curiosity, a lot of commitment and dedication to a population that is incredibly diverse. And so to make this an accessible and welcoming community for them, that people can also take roots and have community. So I appreciate you all very, very much and the work that you do. So I have to step out for another thing, but just wanted to acknowledge all of you, appreciate you, and Jamie, I'm very happy for you and I'm very sad. So thank you so much. Appreciate you all.
Thanks, Councilor Denham.
Anybody else here for public speak? Do I need to wait the 15 minutes in case anyone? Okay, moving on. So we are going to table the April meeting notes until next month. Next up is a review of the draft letters that I circulated this morning on the applications that the city is submitting for Ferry Street and Northampton Street. I realized what I forwarded you had the track changes in it, so I apologize.
Yeah.
It's actually very helpful.
Yeah.
No, for real, because it was like I got to see like what wording needed to be changed for the specific thing that we were looking at. So that was actually kind of neat.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you thought it was neat. You are the only one still here. Yeah, we want to stay up.
In case anyone joins. Yeah.
And it's
Well, it's also the only
recorded.
way to record it.
Yeah.
People need, so,
Sure. So those people can we see? Does that not matter?
oh, and they can just Bluetooth forward.
Yeah.
So I did print out 2 clean copies, but so I don't know if anyone wants to look at the clean copies. I apologize. I didn't realize that I sent it with the track changes. Anyone want to look at the clean one? So these are 2 applications that the city is applying for, around infrastructure improvements at the Ferry Street intersection, Ferry Street and Parsons Street. I did see your note about specifying that it's the turning left onto Ferry Street. So I can incorporate that. But obviously that's a pretty dicey intersection. And the units at 11 Ferry Street are going to be kind of across from that. So this would be improving that intersection and then doing some other infrastructure. And then the Northampton Street one is about a bunch of infrastructure improvements, including water and sewer. So the applications are due, I think, early June. And so they're just looking for us I'm looking for you all to approve the letters of support so that I can sign them and give them to Jeff.
Yeah, I didn't find any other issues, but Sharon had, what was the comment you made about it?
So
About
it
that left,
says-
the turn out of,
Yeah, the housing works area will
Parsons to Ferry.
support improvements at the intersection, currently a very dangerous intersection. Oh, sorry, where the affordable housing development will be located to fix the line of sight turning left.
Great.
I just asked Jana to like specify that we mean
Yeah.
from Ferry onto
Parsons.
Parsons, because when I first read it.
no,
Parsons
Parsons
are
to Ferry.
Sorry.
Yep.
It's
See?
it's really
Yeah.
line of sight also for people who are turning right,
Yes,
right?
from
Yeah.
Ferry
It's,
onto
it's, it's,
Parsons.
it's really fixing that.
It was just when I,
Yeah,
when I
it's
first
just
read
that,
through it, I was a
anything
little
turning out.
confused.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I
You
think
don't
that's
have to exclude.
Turning
that,
out of
Jana.
Parsons.
Turning out of Parsons on
Period.
Ferry, onto
Yeah.
Ferry Street.
okay.
Yeah,
And the
What-
retaining wall is a retaining wall on Berry Street, right?
Yes, and so that
Yeah, but don't.
the project that's being applied for would move the retaining wall back about 8 feet, which would allow shared use path to go in there.
Mm,
And then also they're doing the grants also for the sewer and water work in Ferry Street, in that section of Ferry
Okay.
Street to support the
That resident doesn't own that part of the
It's a
land with the
rental.
retaining,
Well,
so
but
they
that doesn't matter.
or well, that.
Yeah.
owner, that owner.
they're actually, the city's right of way goes back, I think, 8 or 10
Oh.
feet, so it's
Mhm.
not actually. You see that there's like a fence on top, there's like a
Yeah.
fence,
On
a new
top of their-
fence on
Yeah.
top of the wall, and I believe that fence is
Their line.
on the property, or just on their side of the property line.
Okay.
I can't confirm that because
You know, like a survey.
we need a surveyor to know, and I assume that they've done a surveyor to know, because otherwise they wouldn't have put it
Yeah.
there, they would have put it on top of the wall. But yeah, so there might be a taking involved as well, and if there is, then the city would be paying the property owners for that land
Mhm.
that's being taken.
And it's a rental property?
It's multiple, it's like five
Yeah.
properties.
Oh, okay.
my daughter's bestie lives there.
Is the water and sewer project related also to improvements to the new city area? I know that
I mean, so they're separate projects, but they all need to happen. As mentioned, the city has 100 years of
Yeah.
sewer and water infrastructure that
Yeah,
is they're scattered throughout the city, and in places is
Yeah.
undersized, and in places is broken and needs to be repaired. So the new city project is,
that's underway already, right?
well, we're in design right now.
Yeah.
And so that's gonna be a multi-year project. We just don't have, because the grant funding sources are like, you get
I
$1
need
million,
it for the
you can get like $1
amendment.
million a year for the
I can
grants.
read it aloud.
And so that's not gonna get,
enough.
it's not enough to do the
Because it is.
project
both
all at
ways.
once.
Mhm.
So it has to be phased. So it's like probably new city will be like a 10-year construction.
And so is there currently coordination between the new city projects planning and the planning that is happening with the Ferry Street project?
Yeah, so we have, periodically we have, as the designs reach certain milestones for the different projects.
Yeah.
We've got the different consultants exchanging
Exchanging
draft
information.
plans and stuff like that. So we're not gonna end up with a situation where like,
One
you know,
doesn't
what,
coordinate with the other.
yeah. I mean, we like, there's still always lapses and
sure.
things that happen. So,
But the goal is to make sure that it all sort of fits together.
correct.
Okay.
So my suggestion for the change for the Ferry Street letter is just to say in that third paragraph, and I'll get it back to you. So the Housing Works grant will support improvements at the Parsons Street, Ferry Street intersection where the affordable housing development will be located to fix the line of sight for vehicles turning from Parsons Street onto Ferry. Currently a very dangerous intersection.
Great.
And that's all the information that we need to provide in this letter of support? Well, the
Just that we support the
We
project.
support it.
that we support the project and they will have the project development information from a different source.
Yes.
There's like a whole big packet that goes.
Yeah.
And so there'll be other letters of support hopefully too.
So I had asked Jeff to look at them and he made some correct, just to make sure it was like what made sense and like I
Yeah.
correctly described the project based on what he had sent me. And it was to the right person.
Well, that was my only question was whether or not we needed additional information, if that was enough information to let them know what it was that we were supporting. But it sounds like you're saying.
Yeah, it
yes,
gets attached to
the actual project.
application. So it's not going in separately
Okay,
as a letter of support. It's,
got it.
there'll be like a section at the end of the application that has 20 letters of support from different organizations and groups and counselors and, you know,
I
hopefully they're
understand.
not all the same.
Perfect.
Right.
So Jenna, if you want to finalize those, I can set them up and sign now. So
Okay.
you don't have to deal with hard copies.
Okay. Great.
Just send me the like final version
Okay.
of it and then I'll
Shall
work
we
with-
vote on the letters?
And Jenna, can you correct my name to be Donna Amlet?
Yes.
Thank you.
I spelled Chapello right, though, right?
I think so.
Here, check it back.
One P, two Ls,
I didn't notice any difference.
There's two L's?
one P, two Ls.
No. She spelled it correctly.
Two people now?
No, there's one P and one L.
One P and one L.
Moss.
Got it.
I will fix that.
Thank you.
One P and two Ls, La Chapelle.
No,
My,
mine.
her name. Your name. Of course you know how to spell your name. I'm so sorry. I
thought you were like mad
I
at how
took
she
my
spells
hearing
it.
aids out earlier, because, so I apologize, Donna, I know how to spell your last name too.
It's fine. It's fine. It's totally fine.
That's hilarious.
Okay, yes.
Moving on.
Would
Do
you
that
like,
in the minutes.
I know,
please.
would we like to take a vote to author approving these support letters and authorizing me to sign them on behalf of the partnership?
I make a motion that we authorize the letters
One P, one L.
and authorize you to sign them.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep,
Great.
sounds like a good project, yep.
Thank you. I will do that.
That's what,
You don't have to roll.
I'm just gonna laugh about that.
There's no one, we'll have to roll call when there's a hybrid.
Make you happy. Just keeping you
When
happy.
there's what?
Hybrid.
If everybody's present, you can just do like a, you can just do like an up down vote. You don't have to do roll call. You don't even have to ask any, if there's any opposition, if it's clear that everybody's spoken. You know,
Great.
You're gonna have to learn all of the Jamie meeting rules.
No.
you can make your own, you can make your own up.
We're not really,
Well,
Can we get a book or something?
I have Robert's rules, so.
it's like a Robert's Rules
But
class.
it's like kind of Robert's rules, because
Yeah.
the only board that's accepted Robert's rules is the city council.
We just sort of do it, kind of.
Robert who?
I don't know.
We have
Makes
to have
the
a
rules.
quorum. We have to vote on things.
Yes.
Okay, so
And
next,
follow public.
But we
meeting.
only have to
Yeah.
officially roll call if we have members attending remotely.
yes.
Okay.
I don't know why, but that's a rule.
Because they could be frozen
Oh,
and you wouldn't know that they said yes or no.
Right.
Oh,
Makes sense.
yeah, that does make sense.
all the things we learned during COVID.
Yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda is there is a zoning board of appeal hearing next Wednesday night at 6 p.m. This is for the 385 Main Street development. So the documents are all posted. I think I forwarded you that email from Dylan, the one lone planning department member. Um, so who I've never met, but Dylan must staff the zoning board of appeals. I forwarded to you, all the materials are on the Easthampton,
Planning or
zoning.
ZBA, right?
Yeah, in the document center. So as a point of education for everybody, this project is applying for a chapter 40B permit, which is why they're going before the zoning board of appeals and not the planning board. Chapter 40B is a state statute in Massachusetts that allows developers to bypass some local zoning guidelines if they are building affordable housing. So this development is with the community builders and Kestrel Land Trust. I think we're all familiar with the
Yeah.
project.
It's the one that preserves a lot of the open space,
Mhm.
right?
This is
They're preserving agriculturally restricted land for
And related
agricultural
to
Near
uses.
Big Y.
Yes.
Yeah, Yep.
Yes, it's that big parcel near Big Y. So, sorry, my family's asking if I ate dinner. Pretty obvious. Already. Okay. See how much they pay attention to me when I'm home. So yeah. So I just wanted to highlight it. That's next week. I do plan to be there.
I just put it in my
I
calendar
hope
too.
other people plan to be there. This is just the beginning. I did ask Dylan, before Jeff left, we had talked about getting some technical support for the zoning board. Because ZBA, 40B hearings can be complicated and,
Sure.
so it sounds like that has been requested. Do you know more about that, Jane?
We met with MHP.
Great.
They had a short application that needed to be completed. Dylan took the lead on that. Needed to get some signatures from the board chair and the mayor, and I believe that went back to them pretty quickly, but it's still at their fastest. It's like a 2-week or so turnaround. So, they may not be at that
Yes.
first meeting on
Yeah.
the 29th.
Can't hear anything today.
I'm not sure exactly who was chosen, like which consultant was
Yeah.
chosen. But they would be there to help support the board and help
Great.
sort of keep the meetings flowing in
Mhm.
a legal manner and, maybe help with like decision review or
Mhm.
making sure the decision is a strong decision and meets the requirements of so harder to, turn over on like a,
Technicality.
technicality or something like that. I believe that the board is meeting. So I think they're gonna open the hearing on the 29th and then, hear from the applicants and then probably just continue it. They haven't, I don't believe that they've had their 40B training yet because the consultant's not on board and I'm not sure if that's happening before. So, I don't know what to, I don't know
So
what to
there might
expect.
not be opportunities for us to speak at that meeting.
There
because
may not
it's-
be an
won't be
opportunity,
ready.
there may not be an opportunity for public speak at that meeting.
Okay.
There may be, I don't wanna like say definitively one way or the other because, if there's an opportunity and I told people that there won't be and then no one shows up,
Right.
I would feel, really bad about that.
Okay.
So, so the purpose of the meeting then, I think you said to talk about. If it's not a public hearing,
It is a public hearing.
it's a public hearing, but it isn't, if there's no public speak, it's for the presentation of the proposal to the zoning board.
So this is envisioned,
identify what
it's
some of the
likely
issues are?
going to, the hearing can take up to 6 months.
Yes,
And so they will meet twice a month for 6 months to try to resolve this faster than the 6 months.
mhm.
So there will be plenty of opportunities for public speak throughout that process, but not every session of the hearing will have a public speak
I
component.
understand. And you say they'll resolve this. What is it that is being resolved?
Their request for the comprehensive permit.
Okay,
So
and there will be a series of issues related to their request for the comprehensive permit, which will be variances from our
Waivers.
zoning laws that are based in the chapter 40B.
the comprehensive permit law allows applicants to essentially sidestep zoning,
Okay,
and sidestep a lot of, city regulations,
mhm,
in order to have just the zoning board of appeals rule on this issue. So like, it's not also gonna go to the planning board, and it's not also gonna go to the Board of Health or other boards or commissions. It will still have to get Conservation Commission, it will still have to do the notice of intent filing because of its relationship to wetlands.
Yes.
So they still have to comply with state laws, but they can essentially bypass city ordinances and city laws.
Okay.
But the zoning board will grant, they ask for waivers to these requirements, and the board will be able to grant those waivers.
So in that process, there will be, when you talk about a waiver, so I guess I think we're saying the same thing, although maybe I'm saying it differently, so that I understand it in sort of layman's terms. So there are particular requirements that the zoning board has in place, and they will be saying, because we're a 40B project, we would prefer not to comply with this particular
Yeah, so for
piece,
instance,
this particular piece.
for instance,
And those will be
most
specifically
buildings
identified.
in Easthampton are limited to 18 units
Yeah.
per building.
Mhm.
This applicant's proposing, I believe, like 31 units or
Mhm.
32 units per building.
Okay,
So that will be one of the waivers that they've
I
identified, is that
understand.
the waiver to the 18. Another one might be, multiple buildings on a lot. So, typically you can have
Yeah.
one building, but we do have other places in the zoning ordinance that under the multifamily regulations, you can have multiple buildings on a lot. So they may or may not be asking for a waiver. Sometimes they ask for waivers for things that are just unclear, because this section of the ordinance says you can do it, and this section of the ordinance says you can't do it, or this
They
section.
want to clarify
So
that.
they'll just say, we're asking for this waiver just to get it clarified.
And I think Jackie, you said where you could, like, in preparation for this hearing, where would I go to look at the project proposal?
You can go to easthamptonma.gov/ZBA,
Okay,
and that will bring you to the ZBA's webpage on the city's website. And there'll be a link on that for the documents related to the 385 Main Street.
In the email that I sent you all on,
and so I would look for the 385 Main Street project. Okay,
I sent it. Yes, on the email I sent you all on May 10th, which is the forward that I sent from Dylan. There is a link that goes directly to the ZBA
right, I saw that.
page, and so it's in there.
So it's the same thing.
Yep.
We sent it previously.
Yep.
Okay. Thank
And then
you.
there's multiple documents that you can
Yeah.
look at.
Right, I saw that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just looking at this like 385 section.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna go Easthampton.
Yeah, so I guess, for people who can attend next Wednesday, we'll just kind of see what happens.
Yeah.
And then, maybe we'll need to talk about it again in June if deciding on a different strategy, but sounds like just at least hearing from the applicant about the project.
Yeah, and is that a virtual hearing as well? Can people?
It will be hybrid.
Yeah,
It will be
I just was looking at the meeting notice.
That would be a really good time to get those buttons that say I support it.
Yeah, right. Great. I saw Tom Brown last Monday and he asked, I did forward him this also to share with the EDIC. Okay, I don't know if there's anything else we want to talk about this, but I think we'll just see what happens on Wednesday.
Yeah, it'll be the first of a series of
Yes.
meetings, so if you're on the topic, so.
I don't think I know who Tom Brown is.
So he,
Former president of Easthampton Savings Bank and community booster.
yes, and he's on the Easthampton
EIC.
Development Industrial Commission.
That's exactly right.
Oh,
Well done.
thanks. And we sometimes collaborate on things related to housing. So
Okay, thank you.
it's helpful when other folks besides us show up for good support for housing, and he usually does. So, okay.
So is he gonna, purchase those buttons?
I did not ask him about that. That was supposed to be Kayam's job. That was the coalition's job, was to purchase the button.
Okay.
So,
I don't want
From the light
money. I want to afford.
I don't know, just some,
Do it to be able to afford it.
no, we don't have any money. I think that's the problem. Well, the partnership doesn't have any money, that's for sure.
All right, thank you very much for.
Yeah.
Fielding all those questions.
I think next week too, we'll get a good description of the project.
Mhm. Yeah, because the developer will talk about it.
Those pictures of what the renderings are and what they're preserving for open space. I mean, this is a really different project from Sierra Vista Commons because there's a lot of open space that's being preserved.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will make,
It's a great partnership.
yeah,
Yeah, it sounds like a great partnership from what I know so far.
yeah, 43 acres for conservation. Okay. Continued discussion of potential zoning amendments. Before we launch into this, since this is Jamie's last meeting with us, can we review the process? Because what I'd like it for us is next meeting in June, maybe prepare to spend a little bit longer time and like really try to wrap it up
Yeah.
so that we can move forward. Cause I think we're like really close to being done. But I need a refresher of like exactly what the process is.
So, the current process to get something submitted to council, so we're looking at zoning changes. So there's one of the last sections of the zoning ordinance is a section titled like amendments, revisions, changes, and it identifies what the formal process is. And so essentially, any one person can request zoning change if they own property in the city that is affected by the zoning that's being proposed to be changed.
Okay.
Or any 10 citizens, 10 residents, 10 voters, I'm not sure exact wording.
Yeah.
I think it's probably 10 residents can submit a petition to city council. Or a board or commission can do that as well. There's some discretion on behalf of the city council, like it comes from like the planning director or the student board. I think that it's if you can work with a city councilor to get to essentially get them to support the proposal, and it's just brought into the council by city council, that's also probably the easiest way to do this. Because then they will essentially shepherd it through the process.
So if Counselor Denham agreed to be that person, then she would present, like she would bring it to council.
Right, and so she would essentially, you would work with her to draft some sort of memo or letter that indicates the reason why they're doing this. And then she would essentially sponsor this amendment and then it would go from, it'd be presented to the city council, where then it'd be sent to the ordinance subcommittee, where it would live for 3 months to 3 years. Where they, you know, and that's a little bit of a gray area or sort of black box to me for, so just checking in with them because, but definitely they put things on their agenda regardless of whether or not they're actually planning to discuss it. And so I've definitely gone to their meetings, be like, we're discussing this thing, and they're like, no, it's just on the agenda, but like, we're not getting to that tonight.
Oh, but Counselor Denham is the chair of the ordinance subcommittee,
Okay, well, this is her, the
according to the
previous,
website.
the previous chair.
Okay. So that could be at our benefit.
So I think that, Counselor Denham is good at reaching out and inviting people to the meetings. Make sure that, you know, when they're actually planning to discuss it, that it's,
Would there be public hearings in the ordinance subcommittee, or that would go only when it goes back to council?
the other piece, because this involves zoning, it also has to go to the planning board.
Oh, right, yes. Oh, and they could hold a joint.
And so what they'll do is they'll hold a joint public hearing
Between
between the planning
committee?
board and the ordinance subcommittee.
Okay.
It does not have to get approved by either board or committee, but it does have to get referred back to the full council. So typically though, the council follows their subcommittee's vote. So if, like the subcommittee voted that not to endorse this, it probably would not do well at city council.
Right.
but it's not impossible. Like sometimes they'll like one member will vote in favor, you would vote against, and they'll still pass at the city council. Because they just need a supermajority of 6.
Okay.
So this doesn't go to the Board of Appeals? They don't have anything to say about
Zoning Board
this?
of Appeals has nothing to do with zoning
Or
ordinance.
zoning ordinance?
Ironically.
Yeah,
They just have to uphold it.
They have to uphold it.
yeah, but they don't write it.
And provide variances.
And special permits and comprehensive permits and.
It's actually good. It's sort of like a separation of powers, right? Like,
Yeah.
so it gets written and then they can only talk about things that are in the zoning code too.
Mhm.
It's it's interesting to watch
Yeah.
that process.
Yeah.
And then would council hold another public hearing when it goes, and then it's,
But generally speaking, by the time it's referred to council and the council holds a public hearing, hopefully all of the counselors and this group and all of the people supporting it have aired their grievance and come to a document that's good.
Yep.
That everyone wants to support.
Yep.
Because typically at that public hearing, it's like the last minute changes don't often result in substantive changes to the document by the time it's got there.
okay.
Um,
And in terms of what we actually prepare, it's a memo of like, it's a summary, and then is it actual track changes in the zoning? Or like a chart, like what would the document look like?
more that you give them, the better.
Okay,
The more of like a final, like, so in this case where like you're making changes, like the red lines are great.
okay, okay.
Because you're like, strike this section, strike that section, add this section. I typically try to do a red line version and a track, like an accepted version,
Okay.
so.
Final version.
So, because sometimes it's hard to read the track changes.
Yep, yep.
And should there be included somewhere, some sort of, summary or discussion of why the
Yeah,
proposed
so that would
changes?
typically be in the cover memo.
Okay.
So in the cover memo, like, we're going through this and throughout the ordinance, we've replaced all the uses of the word family
Mhm.
for these reasons.
Yeah.
Or,
Mhm.
you know, our changes are focused on the definition section, chapter 8.3 multifamily housing and
Yeah.
8.6 for affordable housing. So whatever, wherever you're focused ends up actually being.
It's so amazing. You can just like cite that chapter. Thank you for that. Thank you for making me feel completely stupid.
I've been doing this for.
Jamie's job is to
Yeah.
know, be able to recite sections of the zoning bylaw.
Jamie has to be the expert on the zoning ordinance so that we don't have to.
I'm just,
Basically.
whatever I do next, I'm only gonna be able to remember these.
You're like, I don't know what is Easthampton, I can tell you.
Public hearing with the planning board.
All right, anybody else have questions about the process? I just wanted to make, we've talked about this a bunch of times, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah,
it's
I
like
just
really
wanted to clear something up, and so it goes to city council, and then you said ordinance subcommittee and planning board, is that simultaneous?
It gets sent to both of them and they'll hold a joint public hearing, but what sometimes, and then this used to happen more, I don't know if it's how Bonnie's doing it, but like the planning board might discuss it separately.
Mhm.
The ordinance subcommittee might discuss it separately, and then they come together to have a joint public hearing where they discuss it together.
Okay,
And so I don't know if they're gonna have discussions about it before they hold their public hearing.
Okay.
They're allowed to discuss it because it's on their agenda. They only have to hold their public hearing when they make their vote to endorse or not endorse it.
and they, I would imagine, like, don't actually necessarily have to tell us if they're talking about it at the planning board meeting, but we should like be paying attention
Yeah.
if we see it on the agenda in case we want to show up.
So
We won't have Jamie to tell
Yeah,
us.
the planning board, reach out, keep in touch with Dylan, because
Okay.
he's the permitting planner right now. He's working with the planning board and the zoning
He's
board.
the only person who works here, right?
Well, yeah, but his focus is gonna be, well, and we also
Yeah.
have a Johanna Stacy, who's our new CDBG
Okay,
person, and Pasqualina's arts and social studies. So there's still people on
some
the planning,
people.
but Dylan will help the planning board. I would expect that the
Okay.
planning board would not discuss it until they're having a meeting with the ordinance subcommittee.
Okay.
The ordinance subcommittee might discuss it with the
Right.
planning board.
Okay.
All right.
And so when they have the public hearing, that is for the committee to discuss it. And when does the public get to speak
So the public
during the
would,
public hearing?
yeah, typically they're asking for comments from the public on the proposal at that
Okay.
point in time.
Okay.
And so, and it's up to them for how they run their public hearing and whether or not they're,
Hmm.
you know, but they can open it one night and then they can take
Yeah.
an hour of comment and then they'll say, okay, maybe we're done with this for tonight. We'll continue it to the next meeting.
Right.
Which is why sometimes it takes a while,
Right.
to actually get these.
And meanwhile, members of the public are, like send an email to their city councilor, for example, to say, this is my concern, or this is my support.
I mean, at the point where it's in front of the ordinance subcommittee, they probably should be sending their comments to the the members of the ordinance subcommittee or the chair of the ordinance subcommittee, but
Okay.
once it passes this ordinance subcommittee and then it's up to the vote of the full city council, they may want to urge their city councilor to support it, or not.
Right. Okay. I understand. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we're done. So we answered our questions in the process. So we have a few more pieces to talk about. I did not finish the chart. I know I said I would, I didn't.
It's all good. Lindsay and I met earlier this week
Oh, yeah.
and have some things we want to talk about. So.
So I
do you
think
want-
it's, yeah,
do
Shira's
yours too?
piece and Jackie's piece. And I think, because you're all done, right? Mostly.
Yeah.
So we revisit it.
till we revisit.
Okay. Cool. All right, you guys can fight over who goes first.
Rock, paper, scissors? Just kidding. Go ahead.
You sent me something, Shira. Do you want me to share it?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay, hold on now. Wait, can I just email it or should I share my screen?
Yes.
Share your screen.
Well, now I have to log into the meeting. Hold on.
Oh.
Give me a sec. It's okay. I can do it. How do I do it? Right here. Done.
Are you a co-host?
I don't have to be a co-host because I can just let myself in. The meeting is I don't.
I meant to share the screen.
I can. Oh,
But I think on Google Meet, anyone can share the screen unless you actively turn it
Yeah.
off.
It's actively turned on.
I was gonna say, there's no way
Yeah, it
to.
makes sense to be actively turned on because
Right.
anybody could be.
Right, I just
I
didn't know
do
if we
not
did
want people
that.
to hear me or see me, actually. We had that problem last time. Well, let me admit myself.
Maybe just put one of them on mute, since.
Many mouses. I don't know which one to put. Okay, there's no more feedback. But we don't really want to, well,
Can you want to share your screen?
I am gonna, yes, but I need to give
If you go to the people on the right,
people,
add co-host.
Who was first, Google Meet or Zoom?
Hmm?
Who was first, Google Meet or Zoom?
Good question.
Yeah.
Which came first?
Yeah, look at her.
Yes, Zoom.
I think we
I
could ask
definitely
Google.
knew about Zoom long before I knew about Google Meet.
Mhm.
We were all using Zoom before we.
Well, we were using Skype.
Skype.
Yeah.
Like at the start of COVID, everyone was still doing Skype,
Skype and
and then
FaceTime.
and then Zoom got popular.
Yeah.
I mean, Zoom had existed before,
Right,
but like
yeah.
I remember the start of COVID, people were still Skyping.
Now it's like a verb into itself.
Yeah.
Zoom.
Right.
Yeah,
And it used to be Skype.
yeah.
all right, I don't know, can everybody, this is gonna be hard.
All right, so it doesn't really matter. So what, so I started doing this research
You're
on,
doing perfect.
I'm doing parking in the 18 unit cap per dwelling structure. So the parking we had said was like minimum 2 spaces per unit. Today, when I was reviewing my notes from when I researched this in January, I noticed that, surprise, there's a contradiction in the zoning ordinance. So,
What's the contradiction that you found?
so there's 2 tables for off-street parking regulations. There's table 7.6 and table 10.3. And before table 7.6, the wording is, let me see if I can get the actual wording.
Where are you? Where you said?
Table
It's
7.
Up there on.
Is it 740?
On the
No,
top.
it says-
Okay, so those are for,
Kinds of developments or something.
yeah, that's for 7.6 is for,
Multifamily, I think.
no, it's, 40R, I believe. The smart growth is the smart.
Oh,
growth
they're
zoning.
different. Okay.
So that's like, if you're developing under the smart growth zoning district.
Okay, so they're
you
different zoning
use
things.
those parking regulations.
Oh.
Everyone else uses the table 10.3.
All right.
I'm gonna
So then
add that
ignore
note.
10.3 for a moment.
I'm gonna add a note here though, next to, if I can.
There's still a contradiction in 7.6 where before the table, it says the following are the maximum parking spaces. And after it, it says above are the minimum requirements. So now that I just saw that today, I'm honestly not really sure where to go.
Okay, where did it?
I can't. 7.
I have multiple things printed off, but I think none of it is what we're looking for. This is,
So Jamie, table 10.3, just for the minutes, has, that's.
Table
smart growth.
10.3 is the off-street parking regulations
Yeah.
for all of
Gotcha.
all of the zoning ordinance, any
Okay.
use in this, in the zoning ordinance. And then the smart growth zoning district it's considered an overlay district,
Okay.
which sits above
Mhm.
the base zoning
Yep.
and modifies a bunch of the different base zoning regulations,
Gotcha.
which is why it has a whole new table for parking.
Mhm.
does multifamily have its
This is
own
7
table for
smart.
parking?
No,
So it
Because it's
abides
table
by
10.3.
10.3.
correct.
So everything abides by 10.3 except for the 40R district.
So wait, so 7.6 is smart growth, table 7.6, section 7.4 is smart growth, and 10.3 is
Everything else.
everything else.
So 10.3 is the one that is a little bit bananas because it talks about multifamily housing having 1 parking space for each bedroom in each unit, plus 1 additional visitor space for every 10
Wow.
All
units.
right, so
Is that wasn't,
I thought we changed
I
that.
thought that
at
was
some point.
updated.
It's still in there though.
9/26/23 is the one I'm looking at. I mean, that's the date, not a section.
But
The 26th of September,
conversion.
2023.
I think it was, the one that changed, wasn't it the conversion of existing 1-family dwelling to 2 to 3 and 4 family dwellings, multifamily? That's 1.5
Yeah, okay.
for each dwelling unit.
One for each bedroom.
I thought that this was one of the things that Counselor Pete was working
I
on,
thought so too.
but maybe it didn't pass.
No,
I
but I
thought
thought
it
it
passed
did.
and then I'm pretty sure it passed like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But maybe it reverted back.
Are you looking for 10.3 or 7.6?
10.3,
Okay.
because 7.6 is more reasonable, right? It's 1 parking space for each unit. I don't know why duplexes have 2 per unit.
But also, are you looking at table 7.6 right now, Jen?
2 per unit, so a duplex would have 4. Jamie's on a mission.
Jana, which table are you looking at right now?
So I was
You
just-
personally.
I'm looking at your thing.
Oh. But
It's just, I'm
that's what you're
looking,
looking at. Okay.
yes, because otherwise,
So the other thing I wanted to point out is directly above the table, directly above table 7.6 in section 7.48, which again is the parking requirements within safe, smart growth, safe growth. It's important to be safe. It says, unless approved by the PAA, the following maximum numbers of off-street parking spaces shall be provided.
Saying in the
It
following.
says maximum numbers. And then immediately below the table, and obviously I just touched it, so everything moved. Shira. Immediately below the table, it says, notwithstanding blah, 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 the use of shared parking to fulfill parking demands noted above at different times of day is strongly encouraged. Minimum parking requirements above may be reduced.
Oh, boy.
And then the next thing also says, any minimum required amount of parking listed above. So
that's confusing.
I just noticed this today, so I had more notes on like what other cities are doing and stuff, but like I either need this cleared up or the city needs this cleared up or something.
So not speaking for what you're just
Yeah.
talking
Table,
about, but the
got it.
previous one, 10.3 was, multifamily housing remained at 1 for each bedroom in each unit plus 1 additional visitor space, but multifamily housing with 15% affordable, at
Okay.
least 15% affordable became 1.5 base
per
per
unit.
unit. And it may be reduced to 1 per unit based on unit mix and project location. Similarly, the,
What
accessory,
page is that on? Or is it like in a,
that's in the same,
It's in that same
It's-
table.
it's in
It's
that
the
same
next one
table.
down.
oh, okay.
They added it, so on the
Yeah.
left, I added
and then if you
a
look
blank
at,
row.
the conversion of existing 1-family dwelling to 3 and 4 family dwelling and multifamily housing for elderly and or handicapped persons
right.
is 1 and 1/2 for each dwelling unit.
Yeah.
So essentially,
Gotcha. So the one above and below, the one that's highlighted
yeah,
are the
so
ones that
essentially it's
changed.
market rate affordable housing has to still have 1.5 parking spaces per bedroom, but affordable.
One and a half per bedroom? No, that can't be right,
Sorry.
because then you've got 3 parking
Multi,
spaces
one
for
for,
a 2
one for,
bedroom.
one for each bedroom, plus 1 additional for every 10.
Every
That's for
10.
the.
So if it's
right.
market rate,
For
Yeah.
every 10 units. So in an 18 unit building, that's 2 visitor spaces. No, it's not.
Yes,
yes.
so
One
it's two,
visitor
2
space.
no.
You would have to get a second
I
one
think you
at
round,
20
you
units.
round
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
No, so the first, so 11 would require 2.
Oh, okay,
You can't have a 1/10 of a parking
Yeah.
spot.
okay. So
Once
it's,
you hit
so
10,
1 through 10 is 1 space.
and then once you get
And
into
then
the next
11 to
section,
20 is, okay,
right, and if you get to 21, then you've got 3.
okay.
So this multifamily, the parking for multifamily housing incentivizes lower units with less bedrooms. Um,
Mhm.
Right.
or at least the parking incentivizes that from market rate.
So my 3-bedroom rental has to have 4 parking spaces.
Correct.
If you built it today.
Yes.
I mean, she does have 4 parking spaces, but like, that seems crazy.
Well, I
I
think,
mean, parking requirements are crazy and the city could do well to remove the requirements throughout the entire city. But that's a different
Mhm.
Conversation entirely.
Wait, so you're talking about 1 unit that has 3 bedrooms?
Yeah,
still
I
has
have
that
a,
3
right, I have a
4 parking
2-family,
spaces?
and one of the
Oh,
sides of the
two-family.
2-family is a 3-bedroom.
Yeah,
duplexes are different. They,
Oh, right, because I'm not multi, I'm 2-family.
right.
And that only requires 2 per unit.
So 4, you still have to have 4 total.
because you have to have 2.
I mean, there's like 10, I'm not
And
concerned.
no,
I
and
was
no,
just-
and no visitor parking is required. But this comes to like a lot of like market rate developments. They look at our zoning ordinance and the parking requirements and go, this is just the minimum. We
Yeah.
actually want more parking because they want more parking.
Yeah,
It makes their development.
So in your experience, the parking hasn't dissuaded development, or just like it skews it towards smaller bedroom
I mean,
counts?
I've seen it,
Yeah,
I've seen it go
yeah.
both ways, but I'd say more often than not, it sort of, it stops the reuse of parcels
Yeah.
and the areas of town where we would want more
Mhm.
housing and sort of pushes it towards the fringes
Right.
where there's more land
Because-
for more parking. But if we didn't have a parking ordinance, we'd have all these lots downtown
Mhm.
that could support housing. But right now it's like you need,
There's no parking.
you know, for 800 square foot 2-bedroom apartment, you need two 800, you need
Yeah.
two, like a parking space is 200 square feet. So you need half as much land area
Right.
for parking as you do for the size of the unit.
Itself, yeah.
Unless you.
And then
unless
if you're
above.
building up, then you end up needing more parking
Mhm.
acreage than for the building.
Mhm.
Because Easthampton isn't dense enough to like support parking garage
Right.
or, parking, first floor parking, and except in like the mills where you're doing a 90 unit building
Mhm.
and that can support, subterranean parking.
Right.
So I guess the question is, what do we want to do? Do we
With the
want to,
parking.
do we want to leave it as is because it was already amended, or do we want to argue that it's still, like, the market rate housing still requires too much parking? What concerns me is that it encourages smaller units, which is then encourages, we don't end up with units except for families. We end up with 1 bedrooms, which we need because we have seniors that want to downsize, but
Single,
And
single people.
yeah,
There's a lot of single people
But
around.
then if you need a 3 bedroom apartment, you can't find one
downtown or anywhere.
So I don't know.
Christina, you said you were doing some research on what other cities were doing. What did you find?
I don't think Northampton requires parking at all in their downtown.
I can't imagine how they.
I feel like that's true for like the lumber yard. Like, I don't know that they have a parking lot that's very teeny, but I feel like somebody told me that, like, they don't require any parking. I'm not saying that's the answer. I'm just saying, like, that's.
We could ask some of the folks who develop housing, just their thoughts on what our current zoning is, to see kind of where folks land on it.
There have been so many parking studies over the years, and like the American Planning Association has done a lot of
Mhm.
advocacy work
Yeah.
and research into this, and like the current best practice really is that parking requirements are just driving up the cost to developments and pushing it
Well,
to
yeah.
the fringes. So
I think
in
exactly.
in urbanized areas, it just, when you're trying to get reuse or infill development, it really, the parking requirements really stymie.
Mhm.
Well, but also it's complicated by the fact that there's not a meaningful public transportation. So, we have that money coming into the state, the new, what was it called? We just passed
The fair share.
the fair share amendment. And there's a lot of money that's coming from the fair share amendment that should be earmarked, was supposed to be earmarked for education and transportation. So
Right.
why are we not getting some of that money here in East
I
Hampton?
think the first dollars collected were in April.
Okay, but what I'm saying is if that money is available, or, is dedicated by statute to the regional transportation, then that should help with the parking issue, because more people who don't want to have a car don't have to have a car because they've got viable transportation. But right now in East Hampton, from my point of view at least, there's not viable public transportation.
But people do, there are plenty of people who do not have cars and do okay. I mean,
Or you can get by if you're in
You
a
get by, and
if you're in a
people-
couple, you maybe
Uber.
could be a car lifestyle where
Yeah.
you like, share a car or something like that, or
we're starting to see a lot more.
I mean, I'm
starting
without
to
a car.
starting to see a lot more electric bicycles. And
So let's come back to whether we think we want to change
Right.
that.
Make a change.
I was gonna make one point, which is when I was working in Amherst, had a very similar discussion, and I think the compromise that they landed on was to I think set some sort of requirement. I think it was maybe 1 or 2 per dwelling unit, but then have a clause in there that leaved it that the permit granting authority could use their discretion to grant basically any sort of waiver based, if they felt it was reasonable and connected to transit, and you're it was bikeable and, walkable area. And I think that had success because it basically meant that it was on the developer to
Make the case.
make the case. And, if they're the ones who do this day in and day out and want their developments to be marketable. And if they feel like they need parking to make it marketable, then, they'll determine based on, I guess, market forces, how many spaces to offer rather than, some arbitrary
Mhm.
minimum or, in here. So that's, like one route is just to kind of set some sort of, or you don't even, maybe you don't even need to set a number, but just say, the board can grant, at their discretion or something. Which that's
But it's kind of by right.
There. I mean, so we do have under
yeah,
special, so under the special permit
mhm.
process, the planning board or the zoning board of appeals can grant a waiver to the parking minimums, but they have to do like a detailed traffic impact study and analysis, and essentially show that like it's on a bus route or that they're providing services or features that promote a non-car dependent lifestyle. And then I think at most they can something like 10%, I believe. And so it's not a huge amount. We can't find the exact wording.
But a traffic
And I
study
think-
is expensive, so
Yeah.
it's like asking them to do a traffic study.
Right.
Yeah, and like where
It's
we
time
found
and money.
it's the 4 or 8 unit projects that just get stopped by this.
Mm-hmm.
The larger projects, they have a whole big project team, and they can do this type of work they can do the pre-development work that pays for this,
Mhm.
and maybe they see the cost savings. But for a 4 or 8 unit, they're just like, tell me what to do.
Yeah,
And they're like, okay, I need a plan for 8 units. I need 20 parking spaces. Okay, well, this site can't handle that. And then
Right, so
go,
then I'll
okay.
just build one bedroom and
And then-
only have.
And then they go look somewhere else, or they say, well, this can't
Mhm.
do my 8 units, so I'll just do 4 here. And because that they don't want to go through the special permit process, because there's always people who are opposed to it, and it makes the process
Takes longer.
and there's
And that
uncertainty.
makes it more
So
expensive.
they'd rather just not ask for these things. So, yeah, so I mean, I think.
I just feel like as I'm reading through it, it's so contradictory, right? Because the accessory dwelling units, you only need one car. You don't, but if you build multifamily housing, you need what's
And a duplex needs
the rationale for the difference between an accessory dwelling unit and an apartment? You have an 800 square foot accessory dwelling unit that could have 2 bedrooms in it, and you have an 800 square foot 2-bedroom apartment. What's the difference?
Right.
The only thing I can think of is that this was trying to push developers to create affordable housing by saying, look, if you do this with affordable housing, you can actually have higher density, more units, less parking, so you'll get more return on your investment, as opposed to doing a project that's just a market rate.
Do you think that works though? I mean, do you think people build affordable housing because of the parking requirements?
No.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Well, are you gonna rent a place where you can't park your car? You can't park on the street half the time in Easthampton because of the parking regulations. So, if you don't have sufficient parking, then,
I rented in Holyoke at a place that did not have parking.
Mm-hmm.
6 units in that building.
Yeah,
So we parked in the Stop and Shop when we couldn't park on the road because of snow.
yeah. I mean, I lived in JP for a lot of years. We had 1 parking space and we had 2 cars.
Yeah.
And, like,
So do we think,
you're walking a mile.
does it make sense to have Shira do a little bit more looking at other communities to see what they do?
I mean,
How do we want to move forward with this?
I
if we
liked-
can't get stuck on it.
I
forever?
liked Ben's so we could take the sentence below it for multifamily housing that says this may be reduced based on unit mix and project location, and you could put it under the multifamily and say this could be reduced, not with a number, based on unit mix and project location by the permitting authority.
Where do you see that one? Oh,
Oh,
right.
right
under it.
underneath it. It's so under the multifamily housing, it says 1.5 spaces per unit, but this may be reduced to an average of 1 per unit based on unit mix and project location. And what I'm hearing Ben say is that in Amherst, they basically said like the permit granting authority could set it lower.
Yeah.
So we could add after the multifamily housing, could say 1 for each bedroom in each unit plus 1 additional visitor space for every 10 units. This may be reduced based on unit mix and project location by even though it's in the special
I mean,
permit.
you can also just get rid of the multifamily and just multifamily with affordable, 15% affordable, 1.5 spaces per unit. This may be reduced to an average.
Yeah.
Because then-
And what is the
Right.
process for this may be reduced? How does that play out? You know, is it,
Probably never happened.
or how
it would go to the permit granting authority.
Okay.
So it would be either, if it's by right, it would be the
Right.
building commissioner.
okay.
If it's by,
Right, so it's whoever's granting the permit, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Um,
We would hate to add a special permit process if there isn't one already, you know, like, so yeah, whoever is granting the.
yeah, so it's not the
permit,
special permit granting
Yeah,
authority,
yeah,
it's the
yeah,
permit granting
Yeah,
authority.
exactly.
So they would say you have to have a traffic analysis or whatever they wanted to see in order to be able to.
No,
act
I mean, like,
favorably on their. on
I mean,
their
it depends,
request.
it depends on who it is. So if it's the building commissioner, they might just say, this is an 8-unit
Seems reasonable.
building and you're gonna provide 10 parking spaces. That seems reasonable.
Mhm.
And that would be it. And then we do that for a while until we find out that we're not having enough parking, and then we'll swing the other way, which is, I mean, the whole reason why we have parking requirements anyways is because, you know, it was only in the 1950s that people were like, we don't have enough parking. Okay, well, let's require development to have off-street parking.
Right, well, I mean, you can see that over in the New City area where people walk to the mills to work.
And parking is an issue in New City. But they make it work. And like, you know, when you move to New City, that you don't get dedicated off-street parking unless you have dedicated off-street parking. And it's a commodity like anything else. So maybe,
Mhm.
you know, you decide like, well, I'm not gonna live there. Or you're gonna like, not every time a child gets 16, do they get a new car or whatever? Like,
Not in my house.
definitely had community meetings where my family has 5 cars. What do you mean you're gonna be, you know, we can't park on street?
All right, so let's go around and everybody say what they think we should do. And then we could maybe come to an agreement.
I like the idea of having it just be a straightforward 1.5 spaces per unit.
I think we need to clarify section 7 with the maximum and minimum contradictory
Yeah,
statement.
that too.
Look at that, because there was something.
I'm very confused. We just really need to clear it
Right.
up, Jamie.
Stay
It's
on,
not June 13th, clear it up for me.
no, stay on this section. Look at this. And
All right,
say-
what do you want to do about
I like the
10.3?
1.5, suggestion that Kate just made.
Yeah.
Kate's not
It's
here
okay.
ever. I know your
I've seen
name.
her recently. I know you do. It's just like me spelling Donna's name for her.
Yeah, I like the 1.5. That's what I was going for originally.
Mhm.
I would also like to see the like permitting for lesser process be simpler for developers.
Yeah, the permitting.
Like what Jana was mentioning about the statement that follows the table that says like, if you were going for lesser parking spaces, you can go through the planning authority, you know, based on this, and this.
Right.
I would like that process to be
Yeah,
simplified.
exactly. Yeah.
It's strange to me that they say this is the minimum, but you can fight it. Like, why don't we just lower the minimum then? You know, I don't know.
And they actually say what it can be reduced to. It's not like it can be reduced to
0.
0 or half
Right.
a spot. It's an average of 1, which is interesting.
I don't know what the average of one.
Yeah.
Like,
an average of one means one, right?
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, no, I guess
It's like 11 spots. per 10
1.3.
units or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, I don't know. Why don't they just,
1.3 would still be an average of one, right?
I don't know what that means.
So 1.5, Jackie, that you mentioned, that's
Where do you see
1.5
average
per
of one?
unit, not. per
Right.
bedroom.
Yeah,
So a three family or a three bedroom apartment would have the same parking capacity as a single.
but then it kind of balances out if they're in the same building, maybe, I don't know.
Well, so if it's 1.5 per unit, so if you have 2 units, then you would have 3
Three
parking
spots.
3 spots for every 2 units.
Right.
So you can have
Wait, so
multifamily
then-
housing across multiple.
You would have
lots.
3 spots
For
for
2
2
units.
units.
So if you have 1.5 spaces per unit,
Yeah,
so you would have, if you have 2, so every 2 units, you'd have 3 spaces.
Because
Mhm.
so
math,
if you have a 2 bedroom.
it doesn't.
Well, this
matter.
is just by unit,
Yeah,
not by
it's
bedroom.
regardless of bedroom, but
The one for affordable housing is regardless of bedroom. The regular one has 1 per bedroom.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm just trying to do math in my
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
To think about how many spaces. So if you had a single bedroom, that could be a one person or it could be couple. So that might be 2 people with 2 cars, and a 2 bedroom might be a family, which again might be 2 adults. So you've got 4 cars, 3 spaces.
So,
Guaranteed
so
3
mine's 2
spaces.
family, so again, it doesn't fall under multifamily, but why I wanted to envision it was, it's this woman and her 2 kids.
Mhm,
So it's a 3-bedroom apartment
mhm.
and her kids are like 12 and 10.
So it's 1 car.
So so if it were a multifamily dwelling, she would,
Need 3 parking
it would be
spaces.
4
Yeah.
3 car parking spaces.
for her.
But it's a
And
duplex, so
all
it's
her
just you.
boyfriends.
So it's you.
She does have a lot of boyfriends, but I'm just kidding.
So it's you and her. It's a duplex, so it's 2 apartments.
Right, I'm saying if it were this
if it were
particular
3
woman,
apartments.
if it were
yeah.
this particular woman in a multifamily,
Mm-hmm.
the building next door is a multifamily and we actually share a parking lot. So if my tenant lived in that building, it would be her and she actually has 3 kids, but it's 3 bedrooms.
And they
She
do
would
4
be,
spots.
she would need 4 spots
You have an opinion?
Because of the bedrooms, or,
because she has 3 bedrooms and plus a
yeah.
visitor space.
but she only has 1 car, because it's only 1
Cause
house.
right.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I like the simplicity of just,
She could have a party, I guess.
yeah. The,
12%
taking it, just like, basically taking that clause, this may be reduced to an average of 1 per unit. And just adding that to the multifamily housing under
Or
green,
just,
the green section.
So
Um,
keep
or
it
just
at 1.
having it this, like those 3 things in
Yeah.
a row, conversion, multifamily and multifamily with affordable units.
yeah,
Can't it be the same for all of those? It's in that,
this may be reduced to an average. of-
underneath.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. If these 2 ended up being the same, requirements,
Mhm.
like we could just combine these
Right.
sections and we don't need to specify affordable housing
Right.
necessarily.
So I have an answer about this other thing when we're ready.
I mean, we don't have to decide tonight. If people want to like mull
Yeah.
this over
Yeah.
and think about
We
it
can
more, we could decide next time. If that,
Well, yeah, sure. This gives me something to work on. I'll just like
Yeah, I
around.
feel like I'm not sure about the numbers themselves. I just like that clause of having that it can be reduced.
I'll like lay out the proposed ideas and we can talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that having an average of 1 space per unit is just saying 1 space per
Yeah,
unit.
exactly. Yeah.
So, because it's a minimum, not
Right.
a maximum or whatever,
Right.
so.
That's
So
one
the
thing,
developer
the
could-
developer could say, I've got like, I'm putting in 3 bedrooms and 3 one bedroom, so 1 car per unit. I have to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but I know that I'm gonna have some families over here, so I might wanna put in 8 or 10.
Exactly.
Just to
Six
make
would be the minimum.
to make it
required,
more,
Yeah.
and charge accordingly. This comes with 2 parking spaces, so for 2 parking spaces, it's gonna cost this much money to rent as opposed to.
Yeah, but they have to, and the 2 bedrooms just cost more than a.
Well, right, but I'm saying, you can also,
I just,
All right, so do we
Yeah.
want to think
let's
about
just
this?
think, yes.
And we'll talk about it next time.
Yeah.
Okay, do you
I
want to
think that's
answer the
good.
question about 7.6?
I will do my best. So, I went back to look at the 2020 zoning ordinance. And the language in 7.481 said, unless otherwise approved by the permit PAA, the following minimum numbers of off-street parking spaces shall be provided by use in in-service parking within garages or other structures or on the street. So I believe that the intent was to change this to max, because this is a smart growth zoning district. The intent was to say, no, you cannot build more parking than what is required here. So it's not that these were, so that was then changed to maximums. For like, so the most you can have is 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit. But then it was not followed through because the following sections talked about the minimums, and when the amendment was made, it was only changed to that one location.
Huh.
So the minimum became a maximum here, but it still said minimum.
So I'm not crazy and misreading.
No, so
There is
really,
actually a mistake.
so
Yeah,
okay.
my
you feel better about that?
interpretation would be that the following, so it should say in 7.482 and 7.483 for shared parking and reduction, it should be shared parking should be the maximum parking requirements above can be increased by the
Yeah, we have to flip it.
and that the reduction in parking requirements be the increase in parking requirements. Again, so that any maximum required amount of parking may be increased, and then they'd have to show the reasons why they want to go above that.
Can you tell me one more time, in 2020, what was the section number that used to say minimum and now says maximum?
7.481,
Oh, it didn't change? Oh, in the 2021.
and it said the following minimum park. So when it was updated in 2023, the word minimum was changed to maximum in one location.
But not all
And
of
not the others.
And it should have changed in a few other locations, and then rather than saying a reduction in parking, it probably should have said an increase in parking will be allowed if.
We need to clean that whole section up
Yeah.
while we're doing this.
Yeah.
Potentially.
So I'm gonna look at that's 2020 in your hand, on your phone.
Yes,
Is it 7.481 there also?
yes.
Okay.
But usually the other thing that's confusing is that usually when these, I think we just changed, and there's a note at the beginning. That section 7.4 was amended by city council on May 4th, 2022. And so I just went through all the way through, and then like it was a wholesale change of the ordinance. It was not just a couple lines here and there. It added the whole new smart growth district. Okay, yeah. We actually just got our payment from the state for it.
Woohoo! All right, so let's move on, but we'll revisit our decision about this in June.
Yes.
Okay. Your other piece was the 18 unit cap. You didn't send me anything about that, did you?
No, we should increase it.
Okay, I think what we were saying at a previous meeting that you weren't able to attend was maybe instead of having a number, what it should say is something to the effect of based on the size and
Of the lot, so every other city I looked into, that's what they have. It's
Right.
like 80% of the acreage
Right,
or
so they
40%.
have a floor area ratio.
Yeah, so I don't know how that plays out in those cities, but in reading it, I liked it. It seems strange to me to,
Yeah.
So we already have So
There's lot coverage.
we have lot coverage requirements.
Mm-hmm.
So like in the R40, you can't have more than 10% of your lot covered by building.
How do I make it so you can't just see me?
Go to auto.
Still just me.
Screen.
Click on that one and hit the pin.
Okay, great.
Yay.
Um, we have the lot coverage requirements, the building coverage requirements. And a lot of floor area ratios don't actually deal with the number of units. They just talk about the massing of the building or the size of the building. What I've seen in Easthampton is that the thing that really drives the number of units in a building is the parking requirements. So
As we go around in a circle.
so like
We're done with in conversations with Frank of Sierra Vista, he has mentioned multiple times that he would love to have more than 18 units in his
Yes.
buildings. So I'll have to ask him what stopped him. I'm not sure if it was the parking or if it was the 18.
no,
cap.
the 18 cap on 18, like the number 18 in the ordinance is what capped his buildings at 18 units.
Uh-huh.
And he could have gone to the zoning board of appeals for a comprehensive permit and asked for a
But
waiver.
decided
for
it
that.
wasn't worth it.
But he decided that the easier process would be to go to the planning board for a special permit. Because he was not a mind reader or fortune
13
teller,
months later.
it would have actually been more efficient and probably cheaper for him to have gone through the 40B process.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
Does the 18 unit cap only appear in 8.3 multifamily housing?
Yes.
I believe so.
The number 18 only appears on that page,
What's the
except
number?
for page numbers.
Yeah.
It's 8.32.
Okay.
And there's been, I mean, it is contentious. A lot of folks over the years had like 18 is what stops, you know, they it's like, what's that? Yeah, but 18 is what stops, you know, the towers that just go up and up and up and up and have hundreds of units. So I think the concern is that if there's no number, that,
Right.
I mean, so in the downtown business district, you can have a 5-story, 90-foot tall building under our base zoning.
Okay.
But if you're limited to 18 units, you'll never get to
Exactly, yeah.
5.
Well, why couldn't it just be 5? Why couldn't that just be the limit? 5 stories? What did you say? 5 stories? What?
90 feet.
That's just in the downtown business district.
It might also be in the R5.
Yeah,
Um,
90 feet for 5 stories, that's,
yeah, so, and it's not in the table of uses, it's in the footnote. The,
Just to make it easy for everybody to find. I just know that Jess has argued that there's lots of things that determine how many units are going to be in the building.
right.
So that's,
And 18 is an arbitrary.
And it
number.
drives up the cost of
Drives up
them
the
if you're
cost.
limited to how many units you can include. You have to pass those,
Mhm.
costs on to.
Well, and like the cost of an elevator.
right, and
Right.
Frank had mentioned that, and he was like 21 would be awesome, because at 21, the cost per square footage evens out.
Right.
So I understand the need to have the cap per structure, and I am okay with it. I just think 18 is a little low when we're considering
Mhm.
elevators.
so I was wrong. It's 90 feet in the R5 district
Okay.
or 6 stories, but only upon special permit from the zoning board of appeals. And it's heights of 55 feet or 4 stories in the downtown business
Why
district.
does it jump up to
Can you just tell me
90?
the number of that?
Sorry.
It's a footnote 2 and footnote 3
Okay.
on table 6.2. But typically it would be, you're in the R5, you're limited to 40 feet and 3 stories. But you could get a special permit from the zoning board of appeals that allows you to go 90 feet
That's
and
huge.
6 stories in the R5.
I mean, you could get a special permit. You could get a comprehensive permit from the zoning board. of
But this
appeals.
is not a comprehensive,
this is
this
special
could be for a market rate development.
Based on use mix.
So that 18 units
6.5?
is sort of like,
6'2".
6.2.
personally, I think 18 is a little small. I think not having a number is
Not gonna
dangerous.
fly.
is dangerous, because you could have
You start getting very large
a
buildings.
40 or 50 unit building in the R5 or the downtown business district,
Mhm.
which
But it would still be controlled by lot coverage and
and parking,
parking and
which
everything.
is
Yeah.
honestly why
Yeah.
because in the R5, you're never gonna with the requirements of,
Mhm.
1.5 parking spaces per unit, where can you assemble
Yeah.
a lot that's big enough that can have
100 units.
40
Yeah.
units,
Right.
with that, in the 60 parking spaces, like, it's never gonna happen.
Mhm.
And then when we're doing the reuse of the mill buildings, those got waivers because they're essentially reuse of existing buildings and those square footages already existed, so they're not subject to the same parking requirement
Right.
standards.
So what do we think we should push for?
I mean, there's a lot of controls in place already to limit. I mean, well, I guess one I would say, if folks don't think we should have 6-story, 90-foot buildings downtown, then the zoning shouldn't, say that. So that would be the first thing is, the dimensional regulation should reflect what folks want to see downtown so that's one thing, but then the 18, the unit, per building, it seems like there's a lot already in place that controls the size of buildings in terms of parking and lot coverage and it just seems like one more thing that's driving up costs of building and limiting, number of units. And probably encourages smaller units too, because you can, fit more in, so. So yeah,
What was the ratio to lot area?
Floor area ratio,
Floor area.
well, we don't use that in Easthampton. We have a building lot coverage.
and is there both lot coverage and building coverage? Yeah.
Yeah, so the lot coverage requirements,
That includes like parking and hardscaping and stuff, right?
so in the R40 district,
Yeah.
the Aquifer district, there's a impervious coverage requirement or maximum
Yeah.
of 10% impervious, but elsewhere it's just
Yeah,
a
exactly.
building,
Okay.
it's just a building lot coverage. So like everywhere except for the R40, your pool doesn't count
Yeah.
to the building lot,
Right.
because it's not a building, but, and we don't have a requirement of structures.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
So
Wait a second, I'm sorry, I didn't follow that.
a building is, commonly I understood to have walls and a roof and provide shelter.
Yeah.
A structure can be any built thing. So like a bridge
Like
is a
carport.
structure, a carport is a solar,
Oh, I see.
a freestanding solar thing is a structure, but those want to be buildings and those don't count towards the
I
building
see.
lot coverage.
I understand, thank
Building
you.
has walls and a roof.
Commonly understood. Walls and shelter.
That's a good name.
Planner speak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's not a shed.
And not a sucker.
Although actually,
Not a
maybe
couple, not a sucker.
a shed might be a building.
I got stuck at a zoning
A
board.
gazebo might not be a building.
I got stuck at a zoning board meeting. This was not in Easthampton once for hours as they debated about some kind of like tent and whether it was a structure or, and I was like,
Goodness.
all right.
I think we're starting to lose focus.
I think we're, and I'm just wondering if this is another one we want to think about and hold, because I feel like we have not really.
Absolutely, and that's on me for not having been here, but also,
Well,
No, I think it's just complicated.
it is
so I'm
complicated.
happy to go forward and do more research now that I have some guidance, but I need, that guidance summarized. Like, are we looking into
Well, so we,
raising the 18, yes or no?
well, I think the thing that we're a little bit stuck on is if we raise it over 18, what are we raising it to and based on what?
Right.
So like one person thought
Just too
21
arbitrary.
would be a great number.
So should I go into that research zone and find out what the good number is.
But how would you do that? What would you research?
I would ask ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Like, what I'm hearing is some things we should think about are looking at, like, for example, the architectural norms of the downtown. Maybe one of the things we would say instead of the number of units is the number of stories. Right? And then it's based on how many you could fit in whatever your lot is, but it can't go beyond a certain number of stories. So maybe it looks something like that instead of a specific number of units.
And those that already exist.
That already
Yeah.
exists.
So we just could,
And the only thing I found historically was that it used to be 15 and that it was raised to 18, like in the 90s, I think.
Interesting.
Interesting.
And I
So
didn't
30 years
find,
later, we
I don't
need
think
to
I found
21.
any notes as to why.
yeah.
That's interesting.
And we have buildings in the city that have more than 18 units.
Mhm.
So the mill buildings have more than 18 units. One Ferry Street has more than 18 units.
Cottage Street,
Um,
Cottage Square has more than.
Cottage Square has
obviously.
more than 18 units.
I mean, I think that could be your metric, is that if you look at all of the newer developments that are being built, the numbers that the developers are shooting for are well beyond 18.
Mhm.
Because, like Frank was saying, you have to have an elevator in every building.
Right.
And the cost of an elevator, it's like
Very
very expensive. And so when you have 6 18-unit buildings or 5
Mhm.
24-unit buildings or whatever, like that's a lot of cost savings and just not having to build an elevator, maintain an elevator.
I mean, what's also interesting to me is that like Sierra Vista Commons has a lot of buildings, right? Because he was trying to get to a certain number of units and keep to the 18-unit cap. And as a result, has 9 buildings,
which also resulted in the spreading.
Oh, somebody has to move.
which a lot of people didn't like, right? So like, it is interesting that he didn't
Right,
just
if
try
we're
to
wanting
make
to
it
advocate for more,
So I mean, I
open
think,
space.
so, I mean, you could propose 27 and see where that lands.
Based on,
Should round.
well, so, yeah, well, I guess here's the
Right.
I mean,
hypothetical.
it should be even, right?
yeah.
The hypothetical is what would Sierra Vista Commons look like if it didn't have any unit limits? Like, you would still be limited by lot coverage and parking and this and that, but I mean,
I think that he might not have gone 3 separate dwelling structures.
right.
Right.
Is he 3 or 5? I'm mixing.
There's
numbers.
9
Well, I
buildings.
mean, so the thing is, anyway,
But they're not all housing.
anyway, he did it, he still would have been limited to 3 stories.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
So,
But it would have gone
he
wider,
could have gone
maybe.
wider.
Mhm.
But then you
Or
start
have,
to,
like,
but then you
penthouses.
start to run into other issues related
Mhm.
to like these long hallways
Yeah,
that
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
or if you do a townhouse style, which maybe you could have done a townhouse style, so each building was its own, each unit was its own
Right.
2 or 3 story. And then you get rid of the elevators entirely, do what Parsons Village did, which is get rid of you designate some units as accessible units.
Mhm.
You make them
Floor.
zero, and,
Yeah.
zero entry.
Yeah.
Like, so it's just ground floor, walk
Mhm.
right in, and that unit doesn't have a second floor.
Right. Gotcha. Okay.
And then the 3-bedroom unit next door has the second floor on top, or,
Mhm.
um,
All right, let's think about it
Mhm.
and hold it for next time. Let's look at the footnotes in table 6.2.
Mhm.
And everybody think about what you might want to propose for next time.
And Lindsay and I did do some stuff on fair housing, but
Yep.
do we have the bandwidth to do that tonight, or do we want to table that till next meeting?
Motion to table.
I think we're starting to lose focus, and
Yes.
then it's not.
I got
we're not gonna
funny
get
hair,
anywhere
so.
good.
So
And I'll try and summarize it better and
Okay.
have it so that you can share it to the screen. 'Cause I
Okay.
just highlighted things in the existing zoning ordinance.
can we, for next time, I know we tend to not have marathon meetings, but it would be nice to attempt next time to wrap it up,
Mhm.
which might take us maybe from 6 to 8.
Yeah, but if we plan it,
If everybody,
everybody have snacks.
yes, we can have snacks.
Jimmy's like, I don't care.
It's like, I won't be here then. When is that meeting?
That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
I'm
It's a Saturday meeting.
not here at the end of June next.
Why is it not in my calendar? Hold on, June.
June 20th, is that our next date?
It might be.
June
We're gonna be
27th.
away.
June
June
27th.
27th.
June 27th is the last Thursday. of the
I'm gonna
month.
be away that.
Me
All right,
too.
then maybe we
exact
should,
moment.
we should then change the date.
I can do the 20th.
Yeah, can we do the previous?
I
What
can
did
do
you
the
do
20th.
before the 13th? I'll join you again.
Right, can we do it June, not 12th?
I have a meeting that
We could do it on
night.
Jamie's last day, yeah.
When's your last
Jamie
day?
can't do
It's a
it.
party for Jamie and a big meeting.
Yeah, just like our
Oh,
Christmas
why is
party.
it not on my calendar then? Did it like
Remember that?
stop repeating? Hold on. I could do it on the 20th. I would have to skip something, but that's okay.
I'm out the 19th until early June, so, or sorry, early July.
Oh, silly.
We could
But-
wait till, we could,
You're out from Juneteenth till early July.
Yeah, July
Okay.
1st, yeah.
Does anyone know David Boyle?
Yes.
Is he still like around?
Oh, yeah.
Been like,
my puzzle why
Involved.
why none of these meetings are on my calendar anymore.
The Thursday after the 27th.
he was a huge proponent of the increase in 2003.
Yeah. He was very involved in the master plan as well.
What are you reading?
2003 minutes. that
I mean,
I
it's-
took
On your
notes
phone?
They
Maggie.
took pictures of it when I went to research that.
All right, wait, let me open my calendar here. Yeah, it's
If,
on
if, I
there.
mean, if the 20th works for everyone else, you guys should meet
I
and,
just want to know.
You know,
why
I
they
can't-
No, but I
did
don't wanna, you have like a big thing.
I think realistically, there's a chance that maybe we won't get everything. at
Yeah, I
once,
know, I
knowing
know.
why it's in one meeting, so.
I know. Well, okay, so we could meet on the, so you won't be here even if we move it up,
Correct, yeah.
Correct. but someone else can't do it on that day.
Which day?
The 20th?
The-
Which day? Or the 27th?
27th.
I can't do the 27th.
Could we all do the 20th?
I could do that.
I'm open on the 20th.
Yeah,
Alright.
we can do the 20th.
All right, so let's move it to the 20th and have snacks and try to meet until 8 o'clock productively.
Cool.
Can Amy come?
If she wants to, she's
She's like,
welcome.
I'm out.
Please.
And I hope to be.
Somewhere doing something
Yeah,
fun,
exactly.
hopefully.
Well, that's the last day of school.
Yep, that too.
So
It's
the
the day after Juneteenth is the last
CPA
day of
will
school.
be meeting that day in conference room 1,
Oh, so it'll be down here.
so you'll need to request
Oh,
this one.
yes, okay.
Okay.
I was saying that about the zoning.
All right, are we done? Can I close the
Motion to
meeting?
adjourn. 7:43.
Second.
All right, it's 7:43, we are done.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.